Chinese, Debbie's known to me as my mother, her mother.
Debbie is Dina.
Debbie's real name is Deborah, and I know her as Debbie. And since she moved to Israel, everybody calls her Dina. That's her Hebrew name.
Horovitz.
Bunny Perlman,
Sheffer Kutai, Hannah Evans, Tziko Montanis, Martha Greenhouse,
Judy Eichtam, Reva Van Leeuwen,
Fanny Leo,
Marsha Greenwood, and Zvi and Talia. And I have this, which to me, I have a funny memory. I remember, and it's very appropriate for Chodesh Adar. Today is Rosh Chodesh. And it's something that Dina once spoke of. For Mishloach Manon for Purim in the family, Dina would prepare cupcakes to package and send out as the Mishloach Manon, along with other things. And after a while, she decided that maybe she shouldn't do that. It's very tempting. She wanted to lose weight, you know, how it goes. And so one year she decided not to prepare cupcakes. And the children objected. And she told me, people are going to expect this is what we send. So please, we have to prepare cupcakes. And so she said, okay, I'll be up to this challenge. And she got out the recipe, which she remembered made 24 cupcakes. The ingredients, got everything ready, poured it into the cupcakes, and she noticed that it made 36 cupcakes. And I'm probably not the only one who knows what happens when we prepare good food. But you can picture, I suppose, when she acted this out, when she was telling about it, pouring and licking, pouring and licking. She had eaten a good amount of the recipe, and she thought it was really funny. It was obviously very tasty. And in any case, they did make cupcakes after that, and family enjoyed together.
I had a lot of different junctions with Dina. At one of the junctions was that we both I took a course in order to prepare girls that were getting married for their wedding and for all the halachot that go along with it. And Dina had been doing this for years. And I took a course in Binyan Shalem, and Dina wanted to know so badly what I was learning because she wanted to make sure that she was doing it right, which I thought was very funny because she taught so many kalot, and so many kalot were just got so much out of preparing for their wedding together with her. I remember there was one girl from Beit Chagai where I live who Dina taught for the wedding, and at the wedding, and Dina always used to go to the weddings, and at the wedding, Dina was sick and she couldn't come to the wedding. And she had asked me to please during the wedding call her on my cell phone and give the kala the phone because she wanted to talk to her during the wedding. And the kala was standing there in the middle of her wedding talking with Dina and dancing with the phone, with nobody else, just with the phone. And then afterwards Dina told me that she wanted to dance with her at the wedding so badly, so this was the only way that she could do it. The night before Dina was killed, I was on the phone with her for an hour and a half. And it was a Thursday night, and we were both preparing for Shabbat, and as we were cooking, we were talking, the time went by quickly, and one of the main focuses of our conversation was about being a good wife, and the job of a wife with her husband, and how it is working outside, and rather than, in a world full of temptations and men and women working together and different problems that can arise when that happens. And I told her that I work with my husband. We worked together. And she was in such awe, like I just got such a great feeling out of the conversation because she gave me such a pat on the back, like saying, wow, you're really doing the right thing. What you're doing is really, really great. And I had such a great feeling from that conversation. I felt it was a very good present that she gave me.
I also tried to think of which one of the many memories that I have to tell about. I also had while meeting Dina the week before she died, before she was killed, we were learning together, and that day nobody showed up, and I found it a great present because we sat and we talked for maybe 2 hours. It was wonderful, and talked a lot about learning, about also our role in life, and it's a great present. But I think that the memories that I have of her are both of how modest she was and how she was always very grateful and appreciated other people. And she was always, when you do something, she would make you feel like it was so important and that you did something well. I remember she and I had a case circle that she was teaching, and there were a lot of problems, and she and I talked about a lot, and we tried to figure out. And she afterwards gave me a wonderful present. Thing for the house, with a lovely note, which I appreciate more than a present, of thanking me and saying, and it was so nice that you had a sense of humor about it. And I think that's also what she always had. She would always manage to find something funny or positive about anything that happened, and that's my opinion.
I didn't know Dina a lot, but once, like Erev Pesach, we bumped into each other for mikvah, and she showed me this box, and she said, I have this box. I told my kids I had to pick it up at a friend's house, because every time I go out, they ask me where I'm going. So she prepared this box by a friend, so she would have an excuse to go out and do her business, commercial. That was very, very thoughtful and clever.
I'm going to say just one sentence. When I was learning with Dina, with the group, and every question that we gave, I've answered, she always had some compliment back to say to the person. She would praise them, and that I think was a very, very great attitude.
I also didn't know Dina very well. I learned with her for about a year or so. My daughter was in her daughter's class. But she was a role model for everybody, I think. She was just an amazing person, someone to follow.
I also have to think where to begin, because I learned with her. We played together in the Tizmor, in the orchestra, and we just see each other. And we learned in the English shiurim that she gave on Jewish subjects, Torah and Navi, which was an incredible experience for me. One of the times after, we used to meet a lot after, right on the way home from the Tizmor, because our buildings were right across from each other. And afterwards we would chat and sit in the car and laugh and cry and all kinds of things. She taught in the open, I taught in the open and all kinds of common experiences, whether it was with students or our own children or ourselves, and how we were coping. One of the times after a shiur on Sunday morning that she gave in Torah Navi, and perhaps she saw that I was slightly preoccupied, I don't know, and I just was sitting there getting my stuff together slowly after the shiur, and she turns to me and she goes, I know something. And she wiggles her eyebrows, Groucho Marx style. I go, what do you know? She says, your son is seeing this girl. And I go, how do you know that? That's a big hush-hush secret. like we're having talking about it at home, my youngest son. This was a big, big secret. He was going with the Komanami, and he'd been going with her for like a year, at least, or something. It was at least, for more than. And we didn't even know for the longest time. I said, how do you know? She says, well, the girl, who was now my daughter-in-law, she asked me, he outside, she asked for my advice on this and the other, and I said, so I realized I could talk about it. It was so hush-hush that I had no one to talk. She said, what was, what? I said, we were concerned, we're so young, we're babies, he's 19 and she says, don't worry. And she started telling me about all her experiences and how she and Rabbi also for quite some time had known each other, and how Rav Lebanon and Rabbi Lebanon at the same time, they were all going out at the same time. And it was all hush-hush. Everything was always hush-hush. No one knew. She and, who is now Rabbi Lebanon. They were roommates, or at least very close friends at the time, and they didn't know, but then each one was going out with someone else, and shh, And in any case, she really, really helped me, relax and helped me to guilt. She softened my, no, I don't even know what to say. So I'm an English teacher. Don't tell me about it. In any case, she helped me see things in perspective and told me all of her experiences. And it was, it helped me tremendously to know that other people also had hands and hearts, things to be up to you. And it was really a beautiful experience where she was mostly, of course, smiling, her big, Crest toothpaste smiling and I was smiling and laughing and crying and everything all at once, and it was very beautiful. Oh, Hashem. I'm very happy.
I admire Dina very much. She set very high standards for herself. I remember when she was trying to lose weight, she said, how can I tell the girls in my class, my pupils, that they have to have self-control if I myself have no self-control? Well, she did have self-control. I remember her telling me that she always made popcorn for her new class. And she said, I know popcorn is the least fattening of the carbohydrates, but it's something I love very much, so I didn't allow myself even one bit was an achievement.
Dina was such an exemplary, shining personality. And there's one thing I remember about her that seems marvelous, she'll be. But we were once in a Matnas for a shiur, and he hadn't started yet, and she was sitting and embroidering this beautiful little, tablecloth napkins, these little detailed flowers. And I don't know why I remember it till this day, but I think it's because the fact that she loved the beauty of all the little details. She loved the beauty of her children, her grandchildren, anybody who she came in contact with. And that little embroidery was a symbol of her inner beauty that was so shining.
I always meant to get to know her better. And I never remembered. And one thing that I remember that she said, I brought my sitter for that, we say, Sadiqim, Hasidim, Naziknem, Chalet Israel, Abitatzot Mohem, etc. I remember saying, what are we doing in that pantheon of tzaddikim? And then I was remember, what she said, I'm like, gee, that would be awesome. And for me, that was Dina.
My memories of Dina go back a really long time when we were both very young women. Before Kiryat Moshe, in a little neighborhood, old neighborhood called Pagi. And we became friends immediately. I don't even remember how we became friends, but it was so easy to become friends with Dina. She was so open, so warm, and so intelligent, and so wonderful to be with. And I always had a feeling of peace. Of course, the different feeling of peace was that she moved away. so early on, and when she moved away, it was hard to keep the same contact over the years, although I did remain in contact with her through the years. In the short time she lived in our neighborhood, we shared a lot of experiences. Our older daughters are the same age, and they went to the same kindergarten. And I remember preparing costumes for Pooh and Ben for our little 4-year-olds. And they were very good friends, Batsheva and her daughter Racheli. And I remember even that we established a chavruta together to learn Sefer Kuzari. She would come to my house at night, and we learned together. And I always admire her brilliance, her intelligence. She knew so much. And she had a tremendous capacity for connecting with people, and for love of her children. She loved children, and it was one of the things that was central. Then we were both very young women, that her love of her children, her babies, and always wanting more babies, which was something that was one of the difficulties, that everybody wants more of a good thing, and she went through difficult situations here where not all our prayers are granted. She had so much love and so much to give that Baruch Hashem, she has 4 wonderful children who are all following her footsteps, and grandchildren, and it gives me a lot of happiness to see that I've seen pictures of the grandchildren, and we all feel the same tremendous sense of both looking at these pictures of what a wonderful personality. And they say here, Chaval al Sha'afti Rabishtakin. Chaval, the people who are gone and not with us. And that's all we can say, that we all miss her. And but we have to go on and accept the reality and remember all the wonderful things about her personality that keep inspiring us.
I don't have one specific memory. Really, it started off with the fact that for the year and a half before she died, I was in almost daily contact with her. I used to speak to her between 5 minutes and an hour and a half every single day for a year and a half. And on the Friday night that she died, we had the Machshir Kesher in the house, and we heard what was going on. And from then I was feeling, what am I going to do now? On the day of the Levaya, my daughter had her Haftarah in school, youth bed, and she wanted me to come. And I said, I don't know if I can come, I have to go to the Levaya. And after at the Levaya, I have my strongest memory of Dina, which sounds like a contradiction in terms. But I remember standing in the Chatzir outside in Hebron, and I could feel that Dina was there. I could feel her neshama dancing and saying to me, Yudit, I know it's really hard for you, you're in Olam Hazeh, and it's the hardest thing that you can imagine as somebody who's living in the world today, in this world, but I'm here on the other side, and it's the most wonderful place. And I could feel the music and the tinkling and the shining, and she was happy, and it was the most incredible feeling that here is Dina there, and she's come to comfort me at her Levaya, and that was part of her greatness, that she could comfort people. I left the Levaya early, and I went to the Haftarah, and at like 11:45, when it was finished, I got in the car to come home, and thinking, who am I going to call now? At 11:45, the ideal time to call Dina. That's when you call Dina, 12 o'clock at night, whenever it is. You call her, it's the most perfect time, nobody's going to interrupt. Who am I going to call now? Who am I going to call tonight? Who am I going to call tomorrow? I've been calling her for a year and a half. What am I going to do? And I just feel that I'd still turn around sometimes and think, what am I going to do? I need to call somebody. It's 12 o'clock and Dina's not there to call. Harriet.
When you keep going around, people have more to say. There's always one thing. Denise, did you like to? You want to share before? I just wanted to show
I
you.
used to study at night, and she should be in bed, but she used to lay on top of the steps and listen to him when he made a mistake. She would correct him, and he would get very angry at her because she knew he did his whole Parsha on the Torah, he did the whole service, and she knew it better than he did. And I keep looking at these pictures, and I have all these wonderful memories of her. But her character, I mean, she went to Hebrew day school, and Dina Horovitz, who's now her father-in-law, was the principal of the school of the last 3 years that she was there. And he had a predicament, because usually the valedictorian of the Hebrew section was given to a boy, and whoever was smarter in the English section got the part. Well, she was the valedictorian of both, because he said that nobody came up to her what she did. And even when she was teaching, she strived and took many courses to understand people and to make herself stronger. She took art and music therapy, and she used to meet with teachers, then they would critique each other to be a better teacher. And she did everything she could to strive to make herself better than she was, which I never thought that she could ever improve more than what she did. I just don't know how she accomplished all that she did. I felt that she was superhuman, and many of the comments that you've said say the same. And I look at these pictures, and they all have such stories, because I was disappointed when she was getting married, because I figured I have a daughter, she's going to be going out on dates, and I would be meeting the fellows that she'd go with and everything. But she really didn't go on very many, and when she met Ellie wanted to take her out, and he had rebelled against religion. He run away from home, and was working in kibbutz that had no religion whatsoever. And then he went into paratroopers, and he wanted to take her out, and she said she couldn't go with him because he wasn't religious. So he said, if you crochet me a kippah, I'll start learning with my father, which she did, and you will know of his great achievements also. But at the wedding, I was so disappointed, because I didn't have the pleasure that a mother has when a daughter goes out with different boys and you talk about it. I mean, this was Ellie and this was it. I didn't know Ellie from a hole in the head. I mean, I knew the rest of the family, but he was never around when she was growing up. But the family wasn't going to the same school. And I said to Ellie's mother later, I said, I really don't want her to get married yet. I mean, she's only 19, she's just in school. I wanted to finish college and go out in the world, and then she would know what's expected of her, and then she could make a better wife. She says, why? You're not married by the time you're 19, you're an old woman. And I wasn't used to Israeli culture. But she did work hard to strive better, and she had a way of making each person that she dealt with as her own special friend. And I know Sipora was very upset afterwards. She says, here I thought I was her best friend, and that's the way everybody felt. But she was really close to Sipora. You almost finished the box of Kleenex. And so thank you very much for your kind thoughts.
I just wanted to second that. I remember going to one of the Haskellot that they had at the opener, and everybody was telling stories. I said, that's not my Dina, I have my Dina. And how dare they have their Dina? And I think that everybody felt that way.
I just wanted to add that I don't think I ever really thought this, but it's so clear in my mind. And also after hearing that, I think Dina was the most humble person that I ever met. And she always gave the feeling, whenever I spoke to her, she always gave the feeling, well, like, wow, you know so much and I know so little. But I appreciated everything I had to say, and she was so brilliant, and she was so beautiful, and I remember telling her how beautiful I thought she was, and she said, me? She didn't think that she was pretty, she was beautiful, and she was brilliant, and as I said before about the course that I took about teaching brides, she made me sit with her and go over with her one of the lessons that I studied there, because she wanted to make sure point by point that she was doing the right thing, and she had so much more experience. Like, what did she want to hear what I had to say? And I have in my notebook, when I teach Kalot, I have a whole page of notes, and when I teach Kalot, I say, I want you to know that these are things that I learned from my friend Dina, and I tell the Kalot, they don't know who Dina was and what happened. And somebody here brought up the point of humor, and she said one of the most important points, what we actually studied together and went over together was the last lesson that you teach a Kala before their wedding, basically about the wedding night. And one of the most important points that she brought up is to use humor, not to take anything so seriously, to have a good time, and to use humor as a kli, as a tool for being a good wife and having a good time. And that's just another point I wanted to come on.
I know Dina from Kiryat Arba, not from before that, but I remember that we, by coincidence, if there is such a thing, ended up taking shiurim together here in the old building, which is now the library. They had a series called Ohel, where they had different classes, and some of them were Torah classes, and some of them were not. And we coincidentally ended up signing up for several of the same shiurim, and one of them wasn't a shiur, it was a course on assertiveness training. And I remember she sat down in there, and I thought, this is the least necessary course for this woman. What does she need assertiveness training for? She seemed to me to be just fine in life. And I don't know, I think going back on those times that she never thought of herself, as other people have said, as anything special or great, or she was open to learning more and to improving herself and to helping other people and to giving support and understanding to other people. And I think that's why probably each of us felt that we were her best friend. Many of us felt that we were close, at least very close to Dina, because she made you feel that way, that you had something to give to her. And that's, after all, how we get friendly with people. We give and we get and we become friends. And it was always like that. It was such a sharing relationship.
I remembered something else around a story that she shared once. A short while after she lost the weight that she wanted to lose, she said she arrived in the classroom one day and there was a lot of noise. So she stood there waiting for the girls to notice that she was standing there, and she crossed her arms and she could suddenly feel the bones of her hips, which she wasn't used to feeling because before that there had been too much upholstering. And she just stood there enjoying the feeling of finding her bones underneath. And the class of girls thought that she was standing there waiting for quiet, and she was just enjoying it.
I know Dina from two different activities that I participated in. One of them was the Tizmoret machine, which is still going on. We named it in her honor. We don't have a piano player since then. I guess I met with her almost every day for at least 8 or 9 years. Every week, once a week for about 8 or 9 years. I really feel they don't really think I appreciate her as much as they should have. Only after she was gone I really felt the big gaping hole. And few years ago, I started learning in the English Torah classes that took place at Dina's home. The truth is that, I also work, I have small children. That was my only day off. And in general, on your day off, you try to do a lot of things. I came the first time, and I really only came to Dina's shiur. I so much loved her shiur. The first time I'd ever heard Torah classes in Israel, at least in English, and I could say the word mesmerized. It's just like, I said this to a few people that were also, most people here were in courses that sometimes I used to come and I was very, very tired. There was a period where it took place in the afternoon. I had to get a babysitter. I was pregnant. I was very, very tired. And I said, I'd just like to hear her voice. Even if I didn't understand almost, some of the things she was saying, I said, even though I'm very tired in the afternoon, I just said, I'd like to hear her voice. And after she was killed, I never came back to the classes. Major reason is that it wasn't on my day off, but one of the reasons is that even though there were very good scholars and ribbits it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. I loved to hear Dina. I still remember the things that she taught us from Sefer Yeshua. I know them by heart. And I never came back to the classes. I just felt that I liked that class especially. I was willing to give up on other things, sleeping, resting, or whatever, shopping, and just to hear her voice. I liked to hear her voice. She was calming, had a calming effect.
Dina was someone to emulate. I admired her so much for everything that she managed to do, and in such a beautiful and simple way. Everything was, I don't know, I wasn't there all the time, but it always seemed to be that everything was in its place, in its own time. And if I went into the library and I saw her sitting there in between, during closing hours, from 12 noon until 2 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she'd be sitting there working on her. They gave her time to just sit there and work on her master's that she was working on so very much. And I felt her hurt so much when she worked so hard and put her whole soul into this master's degree, research and everything, and got it done. And then that's right when all this big national scandal of blue and Universitat Latvia and all this business, all these people that had bought their degrees, and she had worked she worked so hard, I think for Leeds if I'm not mistaken, but one of these, an Israeli campus of a British university, I think it was Leeds, and she had earned every single bit of that master's, and it wasn't totally fully honored until after her death. I think at least a year or so later, then they said, okay, well, they would look into each and every single master's degree. I thought, oh, great. But I admire her for it. She took the time. She cut. She knew she wouldn't be able to work at home because this phone call and that phone call or whatever. So she took herself to the library and worked there. Or I would walk in and everything just looked so nice, simple little touches. Maybe a picture right there. Something just nice, aesthetic look to her home. And I would bring things and simple. In the kitchen, she advised me, gave me her advice on how she arranged her kitchen when I was about to do mine. All kinds of things that I just thought, wow, that's it. The way she held herself. She's taller than me. I was always considered one of the tallest in my class. I had very from feeling that I'm too tall or something like that. But she held herself so straight, and every once in a while I try and remember, it happens a lot when I pass her house, on my run from my house, I'm 33, past 35, get to the library, whatever. as I ran past the house, I go, "Hi, Dina," and I've been known for the 3 years. And I remember her and the way she stood tall, so I try and stand tall. Different things that are so simple and so, well, Dina might have done it this way, like, certain things that I know there's no way I'm gonna do what she did, like sewing curtains and all kinds of stuff, and her own clothes for one of the weddings, things like, at least one of them anyway, I remember. And et cetera, but some things I feel that I can handle, and I have someone that I have my fond memories that I can look back.
You talk about things that she accomplished. Nobody really talked about her music. She loved music, and when she was learning the piano, she won many piano awards in America. And parents, you always used to tell your children, practice. We have to beg her not to practice. She would still talk on the telephone and play the piano. And her girlfriend, Rachel, who was in her class, played the violin. So Rachel would play the violin over the telephone, and Debbie would play the piano. And she had good tone. I mean, she was very good with tone, and she liked to sing also. And when she got married to Ellie, she was ready to divorce him because he had no voice at all. And when he said the kiddish on Friday night, she used to get so upset. So now she kind of sort of hung behind him so he would stay until things like that. There's all kinds of memories.
You reminded me, Dina and I were in choir together. They opened up a choir a few years ago in Lyon, and I remember speaking to her before they opened up the choir about how much I used to sing all the time when I was younger, always be in choirs in America and Bnei Akiva, and like singing was my life. And then I married my wonderful husband and wonderful family. We're all totally tone deaf. And I remember going to the family the first time, and at the Shabbos table, everybody is singing on different tones, everybody in different keys, and I didn't know who to sing with because I can't sing like that. Like, who is this? And I was miserable, and I remember talking to Dina about it, and she's saying, "Yeah, I understand you completely." And then when they opened up the choir in Lyon, she had a run from the ulpana to the choir and back and forth, and something that we did, and I have pictures of us singing together. It was a very short-lived choir, but it was wonderful.
Remember something about the choir?
Very, very short. I didn't know Dina under musical circumstances except for the choir that I was in. There were 8 of us in the choir that I was running, and I just remember at one lesson in her house how she said that she had to teach the bar mitzvah, to read the bar mitzvah parsha, because I'm thinking, wow, she had to learn how to read, how to learn and everything. And it was very impressive because I didn't know her under musical circumstances really at all.
I just remember that also I was with Dina, not in the choir for home, choir in Kiryat Arba. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Also a choir that lasted only 1 year, that we sang together. And what I remembered when she was talking about Mahon is that I was the same as Hadi, that my whole life was music, it was singing and playing. And it really bothered me that after I was married, I had little children, and I just didn't have time. And once I said to Dina, maybe it was about 2 years before, I don't remember, I said, I'd really like to come with you as well, but I'm afraid to go there. It was already the Intifada, and I was afraid to go there. And she said that she also was very afraid, but she would, she could have gone in the morning to the lessons and stayed for the choir and come back and forth with a sa'a. But even though she was afraid, she told me she was afraid to travel, she would go right just for the choir with her own car And I said, I really want to join, but I'm afraid to go. But I said, okay, next year I'm going to join. Next year it didn't open up again, I missed it. And I said, well, what am I going to do? I'm almost 40. If I don't start improving my voice, it's just going to disappear. And she said, don't worry about it. I'm older than you, and I just started, and everything comes back. If you work at it, everything comes back. And then that was, she was afraid of going, and she went. She lived there, whatever, she was, and at the end, she was a Gibora.
I remember learning about Rivka, and she came into the class and she said, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about that, we're going to talk about the camels. It's camel. Remind me to tell you about the camels. It was very interesting, we were talking about all kinds of things, and sure, it was on. And then we got to it, and she said, well, what about the camels? See, she said, well, look at this parsha, there's so many camels, and I look at the gamalim here, and the gamalim there, and the gamalim there, and she read all the, she kept touching on the camels, and what are these camels? And then she had found a perush someplace, do you remember? She found a perush that said that gamalim is a gemilut chasidim, that it's loving kindness. And that was it. And that was the thing that Dina found.
When she taught, whatever she was teaching, she tried to find something that was incredibly creative, or at least get your attention, like you're waiting for the Gmalim all the time. But I remember also shiur, and I don't even remember exactly why we were in her home. It was a shiur that she gave to the girls in the Opana in her home. I don't remember what the occasion, it was some occasion, but she was teaching a shiur on music of Naomi Shemer, sing the songs of Naomi Shemer, and she was pointing out also that she made it like so alive. Everyone was, amazed. And I had noticed that, for example, one of that her songs were arranged. Naomi Shemer's songs are arranged in the way they are printed out in the shape, perhaps, of the theme of that particular song. If there was a song, I forget which one it was, but like the words are printed out in the shape of a gun, or the shape of some kind of the theme of that particular song. But the way I don't know. It's actually it's more about Naomi Shemer, but she was. She brought this to life and brought your attention to certain aspects of whatever it was that she wanted to bring your attention to in such a simple again, but creative way with her grand smile. And another thing is that whenever she spoke, and I saw this a lot, I noticed her a lot during the shiurim at the Torah or whatever, but she had a lot of times a long necklace, and she was like, she would like, I would watch her hand movements a lot, so she was like, she would hold her long necklace and kind of twist it around her fingers and make it go that way, but frequently she used her hands to discuss things, but they were always in piano playing position. Her hands were always held like this. And you can see it in a lot of the photographs where she holds her hands in the position when you play piano, which always reminded me also when I would sit down to play. God forbid anyone else should hear, only myself, but I should at least hold my fingers in the proper piano playing position. And I'm trying to think of other creative stuff. She was just incredibly, well, we all know that, an incredibly creative and aesthetic-minded person. But also, I just want to also reiterate what Chani had brought up about the chush humor, and that at least when on the wedding night, you should have chush humor, and throughout all of our relationships with our spouse, through everything to have an incredible sense of humor. My daughter got it, Baruch Hashem, she had the zchut of learning with Dina before she was married, and she said that was one of the big messages that she got from her, and she said this in everything, and truly this is whenever we would get together and we would share experiences about our sons. I would talk about my experience, or our daughters, or whatever. And we would laugh our guts out, but over things that, a second earlier maybe we'd been crying over, and then we would find something that would just, we would just go rolling with laughter all the way home. And one last thing, and about her ability to overcome difficulties. Also, that she was, I thought of her a lot, getting in the car. She's a little bit tired because she just got back from Eilat. She went to visit Shulamit in Eilat. She knew that Shulamit needed her. Her daughter, her youngest daughter, was there in Sherwood Lomé, and she just had gotten back. She drove the whole way by herself, singing the whole way at the top of her lungs. And I thought, and it was at a time when I was petrified to get into the car and drive to Yerushalayim. Bichlal, I just don't like driving on the highway, but she can do it, I can do it. So it took a while until I brought her back, but I eventually did it. I had her in my mind for all kinds of, and how she was so resourceful. Once she told me that she was on her way to the airport to pick up I guess Rav Eli was coming back. He went so frequently to the States. And first it was at night or something, and she made a wrong turn and went into an Arab village. And she thought, oh my God, what? And she remembered we were all given those two-way, I don't know, the communication system. Abarak. And so she pushed the panic button, the red button, and they came on, and she said, look, everything's okay, but I'm totally lost. I'm in Sarah Village, just guide me out of here. But she thought of these things, if she panicked, it was so momentary, it was just so split second, but she didn't. She thought of everything. And I think and she thought of everything, and at the right moment, and to the point where even on the very night that they were murdered, she thought then too, to let us know that they were mechablim, that they were terrorists, and hers was the smallest little voice. It was the loudest, smallest little voice that I ever heard. She always had this, high, small, tiny little voice, and that night I heard her, we heard her very plainly call out that mechablim, very loud. It was straight from the window. I could tell it was her. I could tell it was from her window. It took me a while to register that it was really her because it was so loud. But she thought even at her last moments in this world, she was able to tell us what was happening and to get everybody aware of what was going on. Yes.
לקיים עליהם להיות עושים את יום 14 לחודש אדר ואת יום 15 בו בכל שנה ושנה, כימים אשר נחו בהם היהודים מאויביהם, והחודש אשר נהפך להם מיגון לשמחה ומאבל להיות טוב, לעשות אותם ימי משתה ושמחה ומשלוח מנות איש לרעהו ומתנות לאביונים. בפורים אנחנו... טוב, עוד לא. בפורים יש לנו 4 מצוות. יש 4 מצוות על פורים. לקרוא מגילה, לסעוד סעודה אחת, לתת מתנות לאביונים ולשלוח מנות איש לרעהו. To read Megillah, to make the Sudat Purim, to give matanot, tzedakah to poor people, and to send manot. אני קצת קראתי על מצוות משלוח מנות. וכתבתי את זה לעצמי בתור שאלות, כאילו שאלה ותשובה. This is a question of questions and answers. כמה מנות צריך לשלוח? 2. How many מנות you have to send? 2. לכמה אנשים? לאיש אחד. It can be 2 מנות to 1 person. וכל מי שרוצה לשלוח ליותר זה טוב.
and anyone who wants to send more, it's very good.
איך לומדים את זה מהפסוק במגילה? כתוב משלוח מנות איש לרעהו. מנות זה כמה, זה 2 מנות או יותר. איש לרעהו זה אחד, איש לאיש.
The pasuk talks about sending manot, which is plural, from a man to his friend, which is singular. So we have 2 manot to 1 person.
בדרך כלל כל המצוות, המצווה היא שהאדם יעשה את המצווה ולא מישהו שליח שלו. אבל בפורים אומרים לשלוח מנות על ידי שליח.
It's usually preferable to do the mitzvah yourself, but dafka in Purim, the mitzvah is to send it through a messenger.
אז אני ניסיתי לבדוק למה. אז הדבר הכי פשוט כתוב משלוח מנות איש לרעהו, שצריך לשלוח.
And it's important to find out why. And the easiest thing is to see that it says in Mishloach manot ish l'ra'eu, which is to send. And to send means you don't bring it yourself, you send through somebody else.
גם חשבתי אולי אמרו לי, אני לא יודעת אם אני נותנת למישהו והוא מביא את זה למישהו אחר, יש עוד אנשים שמשתתפים במצווה.
She thought, or she doesn't know if she heard from someone, but that if I give to someone else and that someone else passes it on in my name, then 2 of us are taking part in the mitzvah instead of only 1.
זה משהו שלא קראתי, אבל אני מרגישה הרבה פעמים, אנחנו קצת מתביישים לתת משלוח מנות, כי לא כל כך מכירים, ומזמן לא שוחחנו, מה פתאום, לפעמים זה מישהו חדש, ובשביל, צריך איזה אומץ לגשת למישהו שאנחנו לא כל כך בטוחים בו, ולדפוק על הדלת ולתת. והרבה פעמים שהשליח הוא עוד יותר לא מכיר, נאמר שזה ילד או זה חברה.
What I was feeling was that to a certain extent it's difficult to go to someone you don't know well and give him mishloach manot. You feel strange. And for the messenger it must be even stranger because he doesn't know the person at all and he's just doing your bidding.
ואני חושבת שזה מחזק את האחדות בין האנשים. אחרי שמצליחים כבר לשלוח מנות, אפילו מישהו שלא הכרנו, אז אומרים, הנה זה הצליח, וכל חברים, וזה עושה באמת את אחד הדברים שכתוב במגילת אסתר, שהחשיבות של האחדות בין היהודים.
The act of sending this mishloach manot can be interpreted or can be seen as something which binds people together. I give, you get, and the people become more friendly, which is something which is the question of unity among the Jewish people is mentioned in the Megillah.
האם אפשר לשלוח מנות דבר שהוא לא אוכל? אז התשובה לא. אני שאלתי למה, וקיבלתי תשובה שאחד הדברים החשובים במגילת אסתר זה המשטרות והסעודות שהיו שם, ולכן גם חלק מהמצוות, ובמיוחד מצוות משלוח מנות ומצוות סעודה, זה קשור לאוכל. האם אפשר לשלוח משקה בתור מנה? כן. אז שאלתי את בעלי אם גם מים מינרליים, שאני חושבת שזה דווקא דבר טוב, אז הוא אמר לי לא. איך נראה?
The question was whether you could give mishloach manot or not food, and the answer was no, it has to be food. Why food? And the answer was because in the Megillah there's a lot of talk about parties and festivities and fancy meals, and here we're making mitzvah with the meal. And she asked if you could give drink, liquid, and the answer was yes. And she asked if she could give mineral water, which is very good, and the answer was no.
איך יתנהג אדם שאין לו מנות לשלוח למישהו אחר? התשובה, הוא מחליף עם החבר שלו. כל אחד נותן לשני את מה שהוא קיבל.
And the question was asked, what happens if someone doesn't have what to give to his friend? And the answer is that it becomes a mutual thing. he can give to his friend what he got from someone else, and vice versa, in other words, they exchange gifts.
אז שאלתי, אם מישהו לא קיבל שום דבר, אז איך הוא יכול לתת? גם אין לו וגם לא...
What happens if someone didn't get anything and he hasn't had what to give?
בסעודה הוא פשוט ליד מישהו יושב, הוא לוקח לצלחת שלו, ומחליפים.
During the meal, he switches plates with the guy next to him. In other words, he gives it to him and he takes from him.
נשים הן חייבות במשלוח מנות גם, ובכלל במצוות פורים. למה? כי הם היו באותו הנס, ככה אומרים, אף הם היו באותו הנס, אבל זה לא סתם שהם היו באותו הנס, הם היו במרכז הנס.
The question is asked whether women are chayavot, if they were required to eat the Suda Purim, and the answer is yes, along with other mitzvot of Purim. And the question is why, as many mitzvot women are not required to do. And the answer is because women were not only involved in the mitzvah, in the miracle of Purim, they were central to the miracle of Purim.
בפורים אריה ואני היינו תמיד הולכים לאלי ודינה בבוקר אחרי קריאת מגילה. אריה אכל משהו ואני הכנתי משהו בשביל אלי, תמיד זה היה משום מה. וכשהיינו באים אליהם, נאמר בערך ב10, אז ככה אלי היה בדרך כלל מחופש, זה נורא הצחיק אותי איך הוא התחפש, כל פעם משהו לגמרי אחר, איזה קאובוי או אני לא יודעת מה, וככה הוא נתן תמיד הרגשה שהדבר שהוא הכי חיכה לו בעולם זה המשלוח מנות הזה, שזה היה משלוח מנות עם דעת, וזה היה משקע, שנקרא. וגם דינה אתם נורא לי, יואו, אני כל כך מחכה לדבר.
Purim morning, Tzipora and her husband would go to, after the Megillah reading, go to the Horovitz's house, and Ellie would always be dressed up in a costume, every year a different costume, every year something more unusual. And he always used to receive their Mishnah Manas as though it was something that he was just waiting for, the thing he most waited for all day.
תמיד שבאנו אליהם, אז במטבח היו כל המשלוחי מנות שדינה עשתה כל הלילה. אני זוכרת שבשנים האחרונות נדמה לי שזה היה לחמניה ודופיקים כאלה מחוברים בסיגת ביטחון בצורה של ליצן. אתם זוכרים את זה? והיו הרבה כאלה, וכולם אותו דבר. דינה היא לא הייתה לזה שואלת ככה, היא עשתה את כולם אותו דבר. וממש התפלאתי שבשנה שעברה צבי שלח לנו בדיוק אותו משלוח מנות. נמנם אותי.
And every morning they would go to Dina's, and the kitchen was always full of shalachmanas that she spent all night making. In later years, she would send a challah and a dal made of candy. I also got one from her like that. It was candy without sugar, but she knows on a diet. But a dal made of candy. And and this last year, Tzvi sent Tzipora the same kind of shalach manas in their name, so to speak.
Do they have anything else? Hello. Hello. We've just been sharing memories about Dina for the last hour or so. Maybe you have something you'd like to contribute? Put you on the spot. Not right now. Okay, I wanted to say, of course, as everybody speaks, so I think of something else. I want to say something else that reminds me of a lot of warm memories and regret that they couldn't continue. I think maybe the most important thing in Dina's life was her family. It came out in so many different ways, things that she said and the way that she acted, and you Bernie's, your trips here, your visits. It was always a major event and exciting and preparation and the children growing up and getting married. I don't remember who was pregnant, one of the daughters, and we were talking and Dina said that
He was hoping to go to the birth. Well, I have some books in my house about birth support. And I suggested maybe she would like to take one home and go over it. There's some good ideas in there, and she did. And she attended that birth so happily. She wanted to be there so much. And I think it's a big scoop that a mother and a daughter have that kind of relationship, that the daughter welcomes the mother to come to the birth. It doesn't happen so often, but it happens, and it's a wonderful thing. And Dina was thrilled to be there, and I'm sure it was a big help. And another giddy thing she was doing all the time. Anybody else?
You know, speaking of the birth reminds me when Batsheva was born. In those days, Batsheva was 31 already, you could get on the plane at the last minute, buy a ticket and get on the plane. And Batsheva gave birth on Friday. And I got the plane Saturday night and got there Sunday morning. And Debbie knew I was coming, even though I didn't say it. And she gave birth in Tzedek, and it was on Jaffa Road at that time, and they didn't have enough room, so there she was in the hall. And here she throws this, sort of threw this baby in my hand, and she said, "Isn't she beautiful?" But Batsheva was wrapped from the neck down with a tight blanket. She looked like a papoose with all this black hair. What can I say? Yeah, but look what she turned out to be. So I remember that.
And this is like we spent a lot of time talking together. We talked about